Hey everyone, I'm Dan from JazzComposersPresent.com, an online space where composers, musicians, and listeners come together to celebrate the music we love. I'm joined today by Remy Le Boeuf, Grammy-nominated composer, saxophonist, co-leader of the Le Boeuf Brothers ensemble, and founder and director of the Assembly of Shadows Jazz Orchestra. Remy is here to talk to us today about thematic development.
Hi everybody, I'll just get right to it. I want to talk about establishing familiar elements in your pieces so that you can branch out and make them interesting. So in order to introduce unfamiliar ideas, you have to establish the familiar first. So let's talk about how I go about doing that. Why don't we start by listening to my new composition, The Melancholy Architecture of Storms.
Try to find you if you ever live.
So here is a lead sheet of the composition that we just heard. So some things are a little different, but you can see the shape of the melody. We have this first theme, da da da, over the first two measures, and then it happens again, da da da, slightly lower. So we've established that this is the main idea, and then we have a kind of B theme, a counter theme, da 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 da, and we repeat that, da 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 da. So the idea is you make something familiar by repeating it. If you go to the next page, you can see same ideas, da da da, that's the A theme, and da 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 is the B theme, da da, and then once again the B theme, da 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 da. So it's all A and B theme. So let's listen to the next verse. So now let's talk about what makes this melody work in the context of the piece. So we've established that we are in this kind of E-flat Aeolian mode, and the key is very clearly established at the beginning, so that by the time we introduce the voice, it gets the focus. We don't need to be focusing on multiple things at the same time. So we establish this melody, and then, as I said before, we repeat it, but we bring it down to a different pitch, da da da, and that makes it more interesting. It's like, oh, I recognize that, but it's different because it's on different notes. So a lot of songs start that way, where you will have an idea and then you'll move that idea to a different, up a couple steps or something. And then we've got this counter theme, this da 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 da, the quarter note quadruplets. It repeats exactly. So that would be boring if we just did everything the same. So I changed the chord. I've got this D flat, sus chord, and then now it's a G flat over B flat, G flat major over B flat. And that makes it much more interesting. It recontextualizes something familiar, making it more interesting. And that is the key thing about what we're doing today. If you go to the next page, you can see that this first measure of the page, I believe measure 13, is the first time we're introducing a new key. We're introducing that E natural, which is new here. And it's also the highest point of the melody. So this is kind of like the golden mean of the song. This is the high point. And we introduce this new element. But when we're introducing all these new things, it's in the context of the A theme. Da, da, da. It's the same shape that we were working with before, pretty much. So it allows the listener to be open to those new ideas because it's mixing this unfamiliarness with something we're familiar with. And then here you'll see I take that B theme, and before it started on the downbeat, Now it starts in the middle of the measure. 1, 2, 3, da 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 da. And that's another moment where it's like the listener recognizes that as familiar, but because it's in an unfamiliar place in the measure, it's interesting. So let's take a look next at what I did with it with the big band and the orchestration.
Swollen clouds expand with rain. The lightning stretches its white fingers toward the fields. The way my fingers search to you, unlocking every door.
All right, so I can just walk you through how we got there, because you'll notice it was kind of falling apart at the end. Like I wanted it to really feel like everything was stretching out of time, different, but it starts in this very controlled way. We have this sort of six feel. We've really established a six. So if you go to the next page, you can see this is where I introduce the woodwinds. We've got a flute and a clarinet panned hard against each other, outlining this figure. And that is our accompaniment to the voice. And this continues throughout letter A. So as we get to letter B, you'll notice I start to thicken the texture with more woodwinds. So we've got a lot more going on. It's this kind of minimalist, kind of layered texture. But I do something sneaky where if you look at the piano part, the bass part, the guitar, whatever, we're not in this kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 anymore. Now we're in a kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're starting to get into a different rhythmic feel. So this is one of those things where I introduced an unfamiliar element, but it kind of pushes the piece along by making it feel like an adventure, making it feel like a story. We're going somewhere. We're not just repeating the same thing over and over again. If we go on to letter C, you'll notice I start to introduce the brass, and we've got these like counter lines and more lush, warm, full sounds and brass voicings. It's not this intimate woodwind kind of thing. We've got this kind of more powerful brass stuff. And the texture, once again, changes a little bit. The piano, it's like really 12/8 now. And this kind of builds a little bit. And we've changed the orchestration. We've changed the colors behind the voice. And that makes this third verse feel very different. And as we get to the final verse, letter D, you'll notice that there's some different things happening. I was thinking, what does the composition need? It needs, we've got a lot of long textures, a lot of legato stuff, a lot of pedal in the piano. We all want something sharp. So the woodwinds are like little raindrops. They're just like super sharp. And that contrast makes it really interesting. It's nice when you juxtapose those unfamiliar elements in the context of something familiar. This is the fourth time we've heard this melody. So this is the time this is our best opportunity to really like do something weird and different and really take us on an adventure. And I had the drums completely playing out of time. The brass are all swelling against each other. Everybody's kind of ripping apart, and we've got this kind of storm breaking that, and having all that chaos and all that uncertainty leading into the alto solo. It really creates tension so that by the time we hit on that first, measure of the alto solo, it's powerful. So in conclusion, I would just say that as you're writing, if you take a step back and think about what a song needs to be interesting, you'll often make these decisions on your own of balancing familiar and unfamiliar elements, just keeping things interesting. But just hitching a ride on a song's familiar elements and driving them through some unfamiliar places can give a song a sense of story and adventure while at the same time remaining cohesive.
Thanks for watching today's mini lesson. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos in the comment section down below. To watch our full-length events and participate in live Q&As with our presenting artists, head over to jazzcomposerspresent.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.